You know that moment when you watch someone who isn't the most skilled, doesn't put in the most effort, and isn't the kindest, yet somehow they always seem to rise to the top. They get the promotion, the praise, the respect, while you, the one putting in the work, keep getting passed over. It's frustrating, right? It's like there's an invisible game being played, and you're not sure what the rules are. Or worse, you feel like you're always one step behind. But here's the truth. The game isn't about working the hardest, or being the smartest, or even being the nicest. It's about understanding the power dynamics at play and learning to move through life with intention and strategy. The Stoics taught us that life is not just a series of events happening to us. It's about how we respond to those events, how we position ourselves within them. They understood that the world doesn't always reward the good or the just. It rewards those who understand how things really work. And once you see that, once you understand the deeper layers, you can start to change your narrative. If you're ready to stop being overlooked and start taking charge of your life, consider subscribing. By doing so, you're committing to your own growth, your own journey toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. Let's dive in. 1. Perception beats reality. You've probably experienced it before, the moment when you have all the answers, all the knowledge, but somehow you're still overlooked. It's frustrating, right? You're in a room full of people, and there's this one person who doesn't seem to know nearly as much, but they somehow get all the attention, all the respect. Why is that? It's because perception beats reality. You can be the most qualified, the most skilled, but if you don't present yourself in a way that aligns with your abilities, no one will notice. It's like you're invisible. The truth is, how others perceive you often matters more than the reality of your capabilities. And that's where the game begins. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This wisdom teaches us that how we show up in the world is in many ways how the world will respond to us. Now think about this for a second. You're in a meeting. You know the material inside and out, but you stay quiet, hoping that someone will recognize your brilliance. What happens? Chances are, nothing. No one asks for your input. Why? Because perception is everything. You might be the smartest person in the room, but if you don't express that confidence, people won't see it. It's not just about knowing things, it's about showing others that you know. Think about the difference between someone who enters a room with their shoulders squared, makes eye contact, and speaks confidently, versus someone who slinks into the background, hoping to fade into the walls. The first person doesn't just have knowledge, they have the perception of power, and that perception carries weight. It's not about being arrogant or showing off. It's about showing that you're in control of yourself and the situation. The Stoics knew that self-mastery was key to how the world responded to them. They understood that confidence wasn't about faking it, but about aligning your inner strength with your outer expression. So, next time you walk into a room or a conversation, take a moment to center yourself. Pause, breathe, think about what you want to say, and then say it with conviction. You don't need to say everything. Leave a little mystery. Speak clearly, but don't ramble. Prepare your points ahead of time, and make sure you speak early in the conversation. Don't wait for someone else to take the lead. When you do this, you'll notice how the perception of you shifts. People start to see you as someone who's in control, who knows what they're talking about. And here's the kicker. When you align how you present yourself with what you know, the world will start to treat you differently. You won't be the person in the corner, overlooked and forgotten. You'll be the person others turn to for answers. It's all about how you manage your own image. The Stoics were masters of this. They didn't just act based on their values. They embodied those values. They knew that in order to have control over their lives, they had to master how they were perceived. The perception of others isn't something you can control directly, but you can control how you present yourself. This is where real power comes from. You don't need to manipulate or deceive. Instead, you need to be authentic. Authentic in your preparation, in your confidence, and in how you communicate. Once you do that, the perception shifts, and your reality will change along with it. And when your perception changes, the world begins to treat you differently. You'll start to see yourself as someone who can shape their destiny, someone who doesn't wait for the world to happen to them, but someone who steps into every situation knowing they belong. So, take a deep breath next time you walk into a room. You have the tools to control how you're seen, and when you do that, you'll unlock the power to make real change in your life. 2. Control the levers, not the surface. In every setting, whether it's at work, school, or even in social circles, there's always someone who appears to be in charge. You've seen it, the person with the title, the office, the outward symbols of power. But what if I told you that the true power doesn't lie on the surface? It doesn't lie in the visible title or the authority displayed. The real influence is in the hidden levers, the quiet, unseen forces that drive everything. In the workplace, for instance, the person with the fancy title might seem like the one making all the decisions, but often it's the project manager, the assistant, the one behind the scenes, who holds the real sway. They're the ones deciding the schedule, controlling who gets time with the boss, and even determining who gets to influence the most important projects. These are the people who, despite having no official title, are often the ones moving the pieces around, shaping the future of the organization. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." While Epictetus wasn't talking directly about power in organizations, his wisdom still applies. The desire to be at the top, to chase titles, often blinds us to the true sources of influence. We think that achieving the title is the end goal, but it's not. The true power lies not in the position you occupy, but in your ability to understand and control the deeper systems. It's not about being at the top. It's about understanding what moves things, who controls the flow of information, and who holds the relationships that shape decisions. Titles and outward appearances may give the illusion of power, but the real game is in the systems beneath the surface, the levers you can pull without anyone knowing. Take a moment to think about your own workplace or your social circle. Who's the person who seems to have the most control? Who makes things happen, even without the official recognition? Often, it's not the person with the biggest title, but the one who knows how to navigate the hidden structures, the person who has the access, the information, the connections. That's where true influence lies. Instead of obsessing over titles or outward status, focus on understanding the dynamics at play. It's not the visible hierarchy that counts, but the subtle undercurrent of influence that moves everything forward. When you focus on this, you position yourself to have real power, not just the illusion of it. This shift in focus is key to mastering the game of influence. Rather than chasing after the top title, start building relationships with those who control the flow of information. Whether it's the person who handles the schedule, the one who decides who gets introduced to the decision makers, or the one who controls access to the critical resources, those are the people who will determine the success or failure of projects. It's in the conversations they have behind closed doors, the decisions they make in quiet meetings, that the real power is wielded. And when you position yourself close to these people, when you understand the systems that truly drive decisions, you become someone who holds influence, even if you're not the one with the flashy title. Think about it in practical terms. The person who controls the schedule can decide who gets to present their ideas. They determine who gets time with the most important people in the room. The person who controls access to information decides who stays informed, who gets the opportunities, and who gets left behind. These levers, though they may seem small and unnoticed, hold the real power in any organization. By understanding these dynamics, you can stop chasing the surface-level recognition and instead focus on what actually makes a difference, the systems that run everything in the background. This isn't just a strategy for career advancement. It's a philosophy for navigating life. In every aspect of life, there are visible roles and titles, but the real power is in knowing how to move beneath those surfaces to connect with the right people and understand what really drives decisions. Whether it's in your work, your personal relationships, or even in your community, the key to gaining true influence is not in chasing the spotlight, but in understanding what makes the spotlight move. Focus on the hidden levers, and you'll find yourself in control, even if you're not the one who gets the credit. You'll become the quiet force that drives things forward, and in doing so, you'll gain a power that's far more enduring than any title could provide. 3. Build options, not dependencies. Building options, not dependencies, is one of the most crucial laws for mastering your own life. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself relying on one person, one job, or one situation to define your success or happiness? Maybe it's a job that feels like it's your only source of income, or a relationship where your sense of self-worth depends entirely on the other person. What happens if that one thing falls apart? Suddenly, you're left with nothing, vulnerable and uncertain. The Stoics understood this well. They taught us the value of self-sufficiency, of building our own resilience so that we're not dependent on anything external to feel whole or successful. True freedom doesn't come from accumulating things or relying on external validation. It comes from creating a life where we're not at the mercy of any one person, job, or situation. If your happiness or success is tied to just one thing, you are setting yourself up to be controlled. When you depend on one person to feel loved, one job to feel secure, or one idea to give your life purpose, you give away your power. What happens when that thing, the job, the relationship, the source of validation, is threatened? You feel powerless, unsure of who you are or what you're supposed to do next. But if you build multiple options, multiple paths to success, you free yourself from that kind of vulnerability. This doesn't mean you should neglect your current commitments or responsibilities, but it does mean you should start creating alternatives, diversifying your sources of fulfillment. The Stoics believed that external events, whether good or bad, are beyond our control. They emphasized that our internal strength, the ability to adapt and move forward, regardless of what happens around us, is what truly defines our success. Building options isn't just about securing financial stability or professional success. It's about protecting your emotional well-being too. If you rely solely on one person for emotional support, what happens if that person is no longer there for you? It's not a question of whether or not you should care about others. It's about learning to care for yourself, to be emotionally independent. Having backup options, whether it's developing friendships outside of one close relationship, pursuing personal hobbies that bring you joy, or simply becoming more self-reliant, ensures that you're not crushed when life takes unexpected turns. It makes you stronger, more resilient, and ultimately more in control of your life. This applies to your career too. If your job is your only source of income, it's time to start considering other avenues. Start a side project, learn new skills, or network with people who can open new doors for you. It doesn't mean abandoning what you already have. It means creating more opportunities so you're not left with one fragile path that could be taken away at any moment. By diversifying your sources of success and happiness, you build a sense of independence that no single person or job can take away. The Stoic principle of amor fati, the love of fate, teaches us to accept life as it comes, but also to take proactive steps to shape it. You don't have to wait for things to fall apart to start building new options. Start today. Explore other ways of making money, find new passions, connect with different communities, and embrace your power to create choices. When you have multiple options, you reduce your emotional and financial vulnerability, which in turn makes you far more capable of navigating the twists and turns that life inevitably throws your way. It's like being in a boat with multiple paddles. If one breaks, you've still got the others to keep you moving forward. What's important here is that you stop defining yourself through one avenue, whether that's a job title, a relationship, or a specific path in life. The Stoics understood that if your identity is tied to one external thing, you become fragile. But when you create options, you gain power. You become adaptable, resilient, and much harder to knock off course. Don't let your sense of self be dictated by one person's opinion or one circumstance. Instead, take ownership of your life by creating multiple paths that allow you to thrive, no matter what. When you have options, you don't just survive. You have the freedom to choose how you want to live. And with that freedom comes the kind of power that doesn't depend on anyone or anything else. 4. Choose what to reveal and what to keep hidden. There's a fine line between being open and being exposed. Think about it. How often have you met someone who shared everything about themselves within minutes of meeting you? It can feel like a flood of information, and at first, it seems like transparency. But over time, something happens. They become too predictable, too accessible, and what's worse, that openness often leads to a lack of respect, because without any mystery, there's nothing left to discover. You can't help but think, why should I trust them if they've already told me everything? This is where the Stoic approach comes in. They didn't advocate for complete secrecy, but rather they understood the power of choosing wisely what to reveal and what to keep hidden. The Stoics were masters of self-control and emotional resilience. They knew that too much openness could make them vulnerable. When you reveal too much of yourself too soon, you risk becoming an open book for others to manipulate. In contrast, being too closed off creates distance and makes you seem unapproachable, or worse, secretive in a way that breeds distrust. The balance they advocated was not about playing games or being manipulative. It was about maintaining control over what others could know about you and when. This isn't about hiding your truth. It's about protecting your inner world. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that doesn't mean you need to lay everything on the table for everyone to see. Part of becoming who you truly are is learning to share only what is necessary and relevant. The key to this law is what we call controlled transparency. This means you share just enough to build trust and respect, but not everything. You don't need to expose all your weaknesses, your fears, or every little detail about your past. The goal is to present a version of yourself that is authentic, but also grounded in strength. It's about showing your values, your principles, and your intentions clearly, but keeping your deeper vulnerabilities for those who've earned the right to see them. When you master this, people will respect you for your boundaries, for your ability to stay composed, and for your sense of self. You don't want to be an open book that anyone can read at will, but neither do you want to be an impenetrable fortress. Striking this balance is essential to maintaining control and influence over your personal and professional relationships. In your personal life, Think about the relationships you've built. Are you giving too much too soon? Have you laid all your cards on the table, hoping for connection, but ending up feeling drained or even manipulated? Perhaps it's time to pull back a little, to reveal less, and let the relationship evolve naturally. Relationships, whether romantic, friendly, or professional, require a balance of openness and mystery. Let people see your strengths and your values. These are the pieces that help others understand who you are. But your vulnerabilities and your long-term plans, those are for a select few, the ones who have proven they can handle them without taking advantage of your openness. By keeping some things hidden, you maintain an element of control, and you also prevent people from overstepping boundaries. In the professional world, this principle is even more critical. It's easy to think that the best way to build influence is by sharing everything, the challenges you face, your ambitions, your personal life, but that can backfire. The more people know about your struggles and vulnerabilities, the more they have to use against you. Think about a co-worker who shares all their problems, their insecurities, and their future plans. At first, it might seem like honesty, but over time, you might begin to see them as less competent or less reliable. They've allowed others to see their weaknesses, and in the process, they've inadvertently handed over their power. Instead of revealing everything, be strategic with what you choose to share. Share your goals, your values, and your intentions, but keep the details of your struggles or your long-term ambitions to yourself until you know who you can truly trust. The people who respect you will see your strength and your value, and they'll be drawn to you because you keep a part of yourself hidden, creating space for admiration and curiosity. As you navigate your relationships, both personal and professional, remember that not every moment requires full transparency. The Stoics understood the power of self-restraint. They didn't feel the need to share every thought, every emotion, or every vulnerability they experienced. They knew that what we reveal can either build connection or leave us exposed. As you go through life, take moments to pause and reflect on what you're sharing. Is it necessary? Will it build trust? Or will it just leave you open to being taken advantage of? By practicing controlled transparency, you can ensure that you're not giving away more than you should, while also remaining open enough to connect with others. This balance is not easy, but it's essential for maintaining power over your own life. It's about being strategic, not manipulative. It's about being authentic without becoming an open book. When you manage what you share and keep certain parts of yourself protected, you're able to build relationships based on respect, trust, and admiration without compromising your sense of self. The Stoics knew this well. They knew that by keeping some things to themselves, they could navigate the world more effectively, maintain their emotional balance, and stay in control of their fate. You too can use this law to your advantage. By revealing what's necessary and keeping the rest hidden, you can create the kind of relationships that empower you and protect your inner world. 5. Respect beats being liked. Let's talk about something that may hit a little close to home, the need to be liked. It's a natural human desire. We all want to be accepted, to feel appreciated, to fit in. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Being liked doesn't give you power. It's actually the opposite. People can smell desperation from a mile away, and if you're constantly seeking approval, you're setting yourself up to be controlled. The more you chase validation from others, the more you open yourself up to manipulation and disrespect. It's a paradox. Seeking to be liked can actually make you less respected. And when you find yourself always trying to please others, it becomes easy to lose sight of what truly matters: your own integrity and self-respect. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that true power doesn't come from the approval of others. It comes from within. Marcus Aurelius, in his Reflections, once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." This isn't just about being a good person, it's about being true to your own values, regardless of what others think. When you're constantly chasing the need to be liked, you compromise your authenticity. You bend and shape yourself to fit into what others expect of you, and in doing so, you lose your own self-respect. But when you stop seeking validation and start honoring your own values, something incredible happens. Others begin to respect you, even if they don't always agree with you or like you. The respect you gain from standing firm in your beliefs is far more powerful than any fleeting approval you could get from trying to please everyone. It's easy to get caught up in the cycle of seeking approval. We all want to feel like we belong, that we're valued by the people around us. But if your actions are motivated by the desire to be liked, you end up compromising on your principles. You might agree with things you don't believe in, go along with ideas that don't align with your values, or stay silent when you should speak up, just to keep the peace, just to fit in. The Stoics, however, practice self-control, recognizing that true power comes from within. They didn't rely on others for their sense of self-worth. They knew that by living according to their values, they would attract the respect of those who were aligned with them. And even if they didn't, they were content with who they were. Think about a time when you compromised yourself just to gain approval. Maybe it was in a friendship, a relationship, or at work. Maybe you said yes to something you didn't want to do, or you went along with something that didn't feel right, just to avoid conflict or gain favor. How did it feel afterward? Did you feel empowered, or did you feel like you betrayed yourself? When you give away your self-respect in order to be liked, you end up losing something much more valuable than the fleeting approval of others: your integrity. And once you start losing your integrity, it becomes harder to trust yourself and your decisions. On the flip side, when you choose to act in accordance with your values, when you honor your own beliefs, you set boundaries that protect your self-respect. Others may not always agree with you, and that's okay. The Stoics taught us to accept that not everyone will like us, and that's perfectly fine. The key is to be okay with that. When you honor your own values, the respect you gain is rooted in something much more powerful than simply trying to please others. You're not seeking approval because you know your worth doesn't depend on external validation. It's a form of inner strength that radiates outward, and this is where true influence lies. Next time you're faced with a choice, ask yourself, am I doing this because it's true to my values, or am I just trying to fit in? When you make decisions based on your principles, rather than the desire to be liked, you gain the respect of those who truly matter. You build relationships that are founded on mutual respect, not on manipulation or the need for approval. And the best part, you can live with peace of mind, knowing that you've stayed true to yourself. In every aspect of life, whether in your career, your relationships, or your personal growth, the pursuit of self-respect over the need to be liked will set you free. It will give you the power to stand firm in who you are, to make decisions that align with your integrity, and to walk away from situations that compromise your values. The more you choose respect over approval, the more you'll find that your life becomes one of deeper meaning, and the more others will respect you for it. This is the kind of power that doesn't need validation. It stands on its own, rooted in your values and your strength of character. 6. Commit to self-awareness. Self-awareness is often the key that unlocks everything. It's the ability to truly know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, and your desires. But so many of us go through life without truly understanding ourselves. We get caught up in external distractions, chasing the next thing, the next person, the next achievement. And in that chase, we lose track of the one thing that matters most: us. When we're not in tune with our inner world, we allow external forces to sway us, to pull us in different directions. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They believed that without self-awareness, you're essentially just drifting, reacting to whatever comes your way. As Epictetus put it, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This wasn't just advice for listening to others. It was a reminder to listen to ourselves, to understand what's going on inside us, what we truly want, and what we're afraid of. Without self-awareness, we lose control. We become victims of our emotions, our insecurities, and the pressure to conform. But when we take the time to understand ourselves, our motivations, fears, and desires, we regain control over our actions and reactions. Think about it. How many times have you acted out of fear or anger, only to regret it later, or made a decision based on what others expected of you, only to feel empty afterward? That happens when you don't know yourself. When you're not aware of your internal landscape, it's easy to let emotions take the wheel. But when you become self-aware, you stop letting those emotions dictate your choices. You recognize them for what they are: temporary, fleeting feelings that don't need to control you. Self-awareness doesn't just help you make better decisions. It helps you understand why you make the decisions you do. What are you afraid of? What drives you to do the things you do? These aren't easy questions, but they are necessary. The more you understand the underlying motivations behind your actions, the more you can choose to act in alignment with your true self, rather than reacting out of fear or habit. The Stoics didn't just focus on controlling external circumstances. They knew that the real power lies in controlling the one thing we can always control: ourselves. They recognized that understanding our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors was the foundation of a meaningful life. When you understand yourself, you can begin to make conscious choices rather than being at the mercy of outside forces. One of the first steps in cultivating self-awareness is being honest with yourself. It sounds simple, but it's often the hardest thing to do. We're so used to putting on a mask, pretending to be something we're not, or denying the parts of ourselves we don't like. But real self-awareness requires honesty. It means acknowledging your fears, your weaknesses, and your flaws without judgment. It means asking yourself difficult questions. What am I afraid of? Why do I make the choices I make? When you can answer these questions honestly, you start to see patterns in your behavior. You realize what triggers you, what motivates you, and what holds you back. And when you see these patterns, you can begin to change them. Take a moment to think about your life right now. Are you acting out of alignment with your true self? Are you making decisions based on what others expect, or are you making them based on what you truly want? When you're deeply self-aware, you stop living on autopilot. You stop letting external pressures or emotions dictate your actions. You take responsibility for your choices, knowing that you are the one in control. The more you know yourself, the more you can respond to life's challenges with clarity and purpose, rather than reacting in a way that leaves you feeling out of control. By becoming self-aware, you create space between stimulus and response. Instead of immediately reacting when something triggers you, whether it's a comment from a friend, a setback at work, or a stressful situation, you pause. You take a moment to reflect on why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Is it fear, insecurity, anger? Once you identify the emotion, you can choose how to respond, rather than just letting the emotion dictate your actions. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or deny them. It means you give yourself the power to respond to them in a way that aligns with your values. Self-awareness also helps you build better relationships. When you understand yourself, you become better at understanding others. You're more empathetic, more patient, and more compassionate because you recognize that everyone has their own internal struggles and motivations. Instead of reacting to others' behavior with judgment or frustration, you can respond with understanding. And when you can do that, you build deeper, more authentic connections. The Stoics understood that relationships were central to a meaningful life, but they also knew that in order to connect with others in a meaningful way, we first had to connect with ourselves. The more you cultivate self-awareness, the more you'll realize that life doesn't just happen to you. It's a series of choices you make, day in and day out. And when you make those choices consciously, when you act from a place of deep understanding of who you are, you begin to shape your life in a way that feels authentic and true to your values. You stop being swayed by external pressures, and instead, you start living with intention. It's a powerful shift, one that gives you the freedom to make decisions based on your true self, rather than being driven by fear, insecurity, or habit. By committing to self-awareness, you take the first step in mastering your life. The more you understand yourself, the more control you have over your thoughts, actions, and emotions. You become the author of your own story, not just a passive participant. And when you live from this place of self-awareness, you begin to make decisions that align with who you truly are, rather than reacting to the world around you. That's where true power lies, in knowing yourself and acting with intention. 7. Master emotional control. Emotions are powerful. We all know the feeling. Anger flares up when things don't go our way. Fear takes over when we face uncertainty. Frustration builds when we feel helpless. It's easy to let these emotions dictate our actions, to react impulsively in the heat of the moment. But when you do that, when you let your emotions take control, you lose your power. You become a slave to the very feelings that you should be mastering. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They knew that emotional control was the key to living a life of purpose, a life where you are in the driver's seat, not at the mercy of your feelings. As Marcus Aurelius wisely stated, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the core of emotional mastery, recognizing that while you can't always control what happens around you, you can always control how you respond. Think about a moment when you let anger or frustration take over. Maybe it was a conversation with someone, a work issue, or a personal setback. What happened after that? Often, when we react impulsively, we regret it. We say things we don't mean, we act in ways we don't intend, and we leave situations feeling worse than before. This happens because, in those moments, we lose control. But when you learn to pause, to take a step back, you gain the ability to respond with intention, not reaction. It's like giving yourself a moment to breathe, a moment to ask, what is this feeling teaching me? When you take the time to reflect on your emotions instead of acting on them, you gain clarity. You start to see the situation for what it really is, not just through the lens of anger or fear. This self-awareness allows you to make decisions that align with your true self, rather than simply reacting to the emotions of the moment. Mastering emotional control isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about learning to respond rather than react. It's about stepping back, observing your emotions, and deciding how to act in a way that serves your long-term goals rather than short-term impulses. In moments of stress or conflict, the first step is always to pause. Take a breath. Recognize the emotion for what it is, without judgment. Only then can you move from a place of clarity and purpose. This approach allows you to act in a way that is consistent with your values, your goals, and your sense of integrity. Instead of letting fear or anger control your decisions, You become the one who chooses how to respond. This is where true strength lies. When you learn to control your emotions, you stop allowing them to run the show. Instead, you begin to move through life with intention. Think about a time when you faced a stressful situation, whether it was an argument, a difficult decision, or a moment of uncertainty. What happened when you allowed your emotions to take the lead? Chances are things didn't go the way you wanted. But what would have happened if you'd taken a moment to breathe, to step back, and to reflect on the situation before acting? Emotional control gives you the power to pause, to think clearly, and to make decisions that align with who you want to be, not just with the emotions you're feeling in the moment. The Stoics didn't just talk about emotional control, they lived it. They recognized that their true strength came not from avoiding emotions, but from mastering them. They knew that in order to live a life of purpose, they had to respond thoughtfully, not impulsively. Emotional control is one of the cornerstones of a Stoic life. It allows you to stay grounded, even in the midst of chaos. It gives you the strength to act with intention, regardless of what's happening around you. And this strength isn't just about avoiding negative emotions. It's about understanding them, learning from them, and using them to guide your actions in a way that aligns with your values. Next time you feel yourself getting caught up in a moment of anger, fear, or frustration, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself what the emotion is teaching you. Maybe it's revealing a fear you didn't realize you had. Maybe it's showing you where you feel out of control or where your boundaries have been crossed. Whatever it is, allow yourself to feel it without judgment. But don't let it dictate your actions. By taking a moment to pause, you give yourself the power to choose how to respond. This simple act of emotional control gives you the strength to navigate even the most challenging situations with clarity and purpose. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean you won't feel them. It means you learn how to respond to them in a way that serves your long-term goals. It means you stop being a slave to your feelings and start becoming the master of your own emotional landscape. By learning emotional control, you unlock the power to make decisions based on what truly matters, rather than being swept away by temporary feelings. This is where true freedom lies, in the ability to choose how you respond to whatever life throws your way. It's not about avoiding emotions, but about using them as tools to guide you toward the life you want to create. 8. Take small, consistent actions. The eighth and final law is a simple one, yet incredibly powerful. Take small, consistent actions. It's easy to think that power comes from making one grand move, one big gesture, or waiting for the perfect moment. We often get caught up in the idea that we need a dramatic, life-changing event to propel us forward. But the truth is, true power isn't about waiting for that one perfect moment to strike. It's about showing up every day, consistently making small, deliberate actions, and allowing those tiny shifts to build momentum over time. This is where the Stoic approach to life shines through. They didn't believe in grand gestures. Instead, they believed in progress. Incremental, steady progress. Every small decision, every little shift in behavior adds up. Over time, these small actions compound and turn into something much larger than the sum of their parts. Think about it for a second. How many times have you waited for the perfect moment to take action? You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow or next week, or when the conditions are just right. But guess what? Tomorrow never comes. Or if it does, you find yourself putting it off once again. The Stoics, however, understood that waiting for the ideal moment only holds us back. They knew that the only thing we can truly control is how we show up in each moment. They didn't wait for life to hand them the perfect opportunity. They made the most of the one they had, right now. Marcus Aurelius once said, The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The same can be said about the quality of your actions. You don't need to wait for everything to align perfectly. You just need to start right where you are with what you have and make the next small, deliberate step. It might not feel like much in the moment, this tiny action, this small step, but over time, these seemingly insignificant actions add up to something powerful. Imagine you're trying to get in shape. If you only work out when you feel like it, you won't get far. But if you make a consistent effort, even just 10 minutes a day, you'll start to see results. It's not about doing everything all at once. It's about the consistency, the daily habit of taking small steps that eventually lead to the change you desire. The Stoics understood that life is built on these small, consistent actions. They didn't expect massive transformation overnight. They embraced the process of growth, and they trusted that, with each small step, they were getting closer to where they wanted to be. The key here is to focus on what's in front of you today. Stop waiting for some magical moment to arrive, because that moment doesn't exist. Life isn't about waiting for things to be perfect. It's about taking action now with what you have and making progress, no matter how small. It's like building a wall brick by brick. You can't expect it to be complete in a day, but if you lay one brick every day, over time, that wall will rise. It's the same with anything you want to accomplish in life, whether it's improving your physical health, building better relationships, or advancing in your career. It's all about the small steps you take consistently. These actions might not seem monumental at first, but over time, they compound and create lasting change. This approach also eliminates the pressure to be perfect. When you focus on small, consistent actions, you remove the expectation that you need to do everything perfectly. Perfectionism can be paralyzing. You think you need everything to be aligned, every step to be flawless, and that can stop you from taking any action at all. But when you focus on consistent effort instead of perfection, you give yourself the freedom to fail, to make mistakes, and to keep moving forward. Failure isn't the enemy, it's a part of the process. The Stoics understood that failure is inevitable, but how you respond to it makes all the difference. They didn't see setbacks as reasons to stop. They saw them as opportunities to learn and grow. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of big moves, big changes, and big actions. But the real power lies in the small, consistent things we do every day. It's the habit of showing up, no matter what. It's the willingness to make progress, no matter how small, and trust that over time, these actions will build momentum. The Stoics didn't wait for circumstances to change or for things to be perfect. They focused on what they could control, what they did in the present moment. And that, ultimately, is what led them to greater power, inner peace, and success. So ask yourself, what's one small action you can take today? It might feel insignificant now, but trust me, it will add up. Whether it's writing for 10 minutes, making that phone call, or setting aside a few minutes to meditate or reflect, each small action moves you closer to your goals. Stop waiting for the perfect moment or the grand gesture. Start with one small step. And as you build that consistency, you'll start to see real progress. You'll begin to realize that the power to change your life was always within you. It was just a matter of taking those small, consistent actions over time. Remember, the Stoics didn't believe in grandiose transformations overnight. They believed in steady, incremental progress. They understood that change takes time, but with small steps, you can achieve the extraordinary. Don't underestimate the power of consistent effort. The most powerful forces in the world are often the ones that operate quietly, steadily, and persistently. By taking small, consistent actions, you can create that same quiet power in your own life. Keep moving forward, one step at a time, and watch as these small actions lead you to massive transformation. Remember, the path to true power isn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about taking consistent, intentional steps every day. Small actions over time create the life you want, so start today. Make that first step. If this resonated with you, don't stop now. Check out one of the suggested videos on the screen and keep moving forward on your journey.